To save my husband's company, I pleaded for 3 days and nights in front of my father while I was 3 months pregnant. Ultimately, he agreed to our marriage for the sake of the child and promised to invest. However, just as I was about to share this good news with my husband, he handed me the divorce agreement. He is getting married to Sophia Lynn next month. Her father is a billionaire, which would completely solve the company's financial issues. Hurry up and sign the papers. Sophia, a sly woman who scammed my dad out of money, how did she become his daughter? For the sake of the child, I will help Michael Jong's company fill the funding gap. I begged my dad for 3 days and nights, and he finally agreed. When I married Michael, he had no money, and my dad strongly opposed the marriage, even refusing to show up on the wedding day. But I always believed that I was marrying for love. After receiving my dad's promise, I happily returned home and prepared a delicious feast, waiting for Michael to come back so I could share the good news with him. However, he didn't stumble through the door until 10 o'clock that night, drunk. "You still forgot, even after all the socializing today," he grumbled as he looked at the reheated dishes on the table. I tried to console myself, knowing he had been feeling down lately because of issues at work. "Honey, I have some good news to tell you." However, before I could finish my sentence, he took out an agreement from his briefcase and threw it in front of me. "Next month, I'm going to marry Sophia. Her father is a billionaire, and marrying her would solve the company's financial issues. Don't complicate things, just sign it quickly." For a moment, I suspected that I must have misheard. The name Sophia left a strong impression on me. Not long ago, I had scolded this woman, who seduced my father, together with my mother. Unfortunately, the scolding was still too light. After letting her go, I found out that she had also swindled my dad out of over 10 million. I didn't expect her to have such a short memory. Not long after, she seduced my husband again. What made me even angrier was Michael's attitude. "Michael, do you even know what you're saying? What's going on with you?" Michael had a defiant look on his face and stared at me fiercely, then shouted, "You should know the current situation of the company. The only option now is to rely on Sophia to save the company. So you have to accept this, there's no other choice." Seeing his determination made me so angry that my voice trembled. "You're kicking me out for the sake of the company? I just got pregnant with your child. Moreover, this child is conceived because of you. I have always wanted to be child-free, and you know that better than anyone. I have always been a firm believer in the DINK, dual income no kids, lifestyle. This time, I had to use the child as a bargaining chip to seek help from my dad for Michael's company. Even so, I pleaded for 3 whole days and nights, and this is the outcome I got. Don't mention the child anymore. Do you think that just because you've gone through so much to have my child, you can use that to threaten me? If the company goes bankrupt, both you and the child will face starvation. At this age, can't you understand such a simple truth?" Looking at him, I suddenly felt he was very unfamiliar. Is he still the man who whispers sweet nothings in my ear every day? At this moment, my eyes are filled with disappointment. "Are you trying to use my pain to exchange for your happy life with her?" Michael sighed, attempting to hold my hand, but I pulled away. "Olivia Lee, don't think like that. After all, we had feelings for each other, and I still love you. Once the company's crisis is over, I will quietly buy you an apartment, and you can live there. Whenever I have time, I'll come to keep you company." Michael's words left me both amused and distressed. It's hard to imagine that a normal person would say something like that. "So you want me, the legitimate wife, to be the other woman? What should we do now? If I don't marry Sophia, the company will go under. If you marry her, you can only be the other woman. That can't be changed." Michael slammed the table heavily, looking very aggrieved, as if I didn't understand him. I grabbed a glass of water and splashed it directly onto his face, then walked into the room and slammed the door shut. In the living room, I heard Michael's furious shout, "Olivia, I'll give you 3 days to think it over. Otherwise, don't blame me for turning against you." Shortly after, the sound of a door being slammed was heard. I leaned against the door, hugging my knees, and couldn't help but cry. At that moment, I noticed a used Okamoto box under the bed. I froze and picked it up, only to find that all 7 inside had been used. The thought of the wedding bed I had carefully chosen filled me with a sharp pain. For him, I returned to my family home, enduring my father's cold glances and begging for 3 days and nights. In the end, it was my mom who stepped in and softened my dad's heart to get him to agree. As for Michael, he took the opportunity to bring Sophia back home, causing quite a stir. "Michael, if that's the case, you brought this upon yourself." I found Sophia's number in my phone contacts. Initially, I added her using a different account, which ultimately helped my mom confirm the evidence that she had been seducing my dad and trying to scam him for money. I can only say that I wasn't strict enough with her that time. Even though my husband drank a lot, he still rushed over to be with me right away, which really made me feel secure. I am truly happy to have such a husband. I opened her moments and immediately saw her latest update. Another clap of thunder echoed outside. I gripped my phone tightly, forgetting my fear, with only anger left in my eyes. The next day, I got up and went to the hospital. I didn't hesitate at all when it came to the procedure, as I had never really liked children. When I got home, I was surprised to find that Michael was already back, and there were several dishes laid out on the table. "Where did you go this morning?" he asked. "Go wash your hands quickly. I've made something delicious for you," I replied. I noticed that the dishes on the table were clearly not made by him, they were all takeout. "Are you sure you made this yourself?" I asked him coldly. On the way back, Sophia's social media had already revealed his secret. These dishes were just the leftovers after he and Sophia had eaten. After being exposed, Michael smiled helplessly, realizing that the other person knew he couldn't cook. He had spent 2 hours buying these ingredients from Jinling Hotel. A cold smile crept onto his lips. The company was nearly bankrupt, yet he was so generous just to get me to agree to a divorce. Although I had grown tired of Jinling Hotel since childhood, he had never taken me there even once after we got married, claiming it was too expensive. Now he was suddenly generous, not only taking Sophia to such a high-end place, but also bringing home the leftovers for me. Michael placed a piece of braised pork in front of my bowl and said, "Olivia, I promise you that as long as we get through this crisis at the company, I'll take you to Jinling Hotel for a big meal once a month from now on. But this time, you really have to help me. I gave you a night to think it over, so you should have made up your mind by now." I had indeed come to a conclusion after a night of consideration. Then, I took the abortion report out of my bag. "That's great! Olivia, you are even more understanding than I imagined." Although Sophia didn't say it outright, I can sense that she still has some concerns about the child in your arms now that the child is gone. It's a relief for everyone. I didn't expect him to react so indifferently. He doesn't even seem to feel a hint of the sadness I had imagined. If one day he discovers that this child is the only leverage I have that my dad approves of, I wonder what his reaction would be. However, none of that matters anymore. He has already lost the right to even help my dad with his shoes. Michael quickly pulled out the divorce agreement he had prepared in advance and placed it in front of me. "Olivia, I've got the agreement ready. Let's sign it." "Don't worry, Michael, always keep my word. Divorce is just a formality. Once the company's funds come in, I will buy you a house. At that time, I will set aside a day every week to be with you." Haha, how generous. He didn't realize how painful these words were for a woman. Each sentence pierced my heart deeply. I held back my tears and forced a bitter smile as I picked up the divorce agreement. Sure enough, he didn't mention anything about asset division in the document. Even the house was just an empty promise, a verbal commitment. "Michael, is this your attitude towards our divorce? You didn't say a word about how to divide the assets or the ownership of the house. What is going on? You cheated, and now you want me to leave with nothing?" When it comes to dividing assets, his expression immediately changed. "Olivia, everything you've eaten, worn, and lived in these years has been paid for by me. Besides, you don't even have your family to rely on, it's all been me. I've supported you all these years. Are you really thinking of getting a divorce now and trying to claim a settlement for yourself?" After saying this, he took a bank card out of his bag. "I know you want money. There's 100,000 yuan in this card, and I prepared it for you long ago. But once you take the money, our business is over, and I don't want you to interfere in my life with Sophia anymore. You think 100,000 yuan is enough to make me completely let go? Michael, is this really your true intention? Fine, I will oblige you. Just don't regret it later." I looked at him coldly and signed the unfair divorce agreement without hesitation. At that moment, all I wanted was to sever ties with this man as quickly as possible, to prevent him from bothering me endlessly once he discovered my true identity. When Michael saw that I had signed the divorce agreement, a smug smile appeared on his face. He hurriedly took me to the Civil Affairs Bureau to collect the divorce certificate. As I watched the staff stamp the divorce certificate with an official seal, I felt a sigh of relief in my heart. He didn't notice that I was also feeling relieved. Just wait, Michael. A great show is about to unfold. Olivia, come with me to the company. After all, you have a stake in it, and I want to discuss with the other shareholders how we can cash out your shares. After coming out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Michael called out to me. After all, when he started the company from scratch, I invested $300,000, which gave me a 20% share. If he doesn't kick me out, once the funding is successful, he will have to give me a share. I coldly looked at him, wondering how far he would go. At that moment, I didn't feel sad. As long as he can take things to the extreme, my revenge would be even more complete. All right, I nodded and followed him to the company. When I walked into the company, I noticed that everyone was looking at me with surprise, which made me feel somewhat taken aback and uneasy. I observed that the nameplate on my office door had been removed and replaced with Miss Lynn's name, as if they were eager to make the change. How could that woman have the audacity to come back? After engaging in so many disreputable activities outside, she truly has no shame. Now she's pregnant with Mr. Zhang's child, yet still cheating. It's really appalling. The employees of the company were quietly discussing something, and I could hear them clearly. During my pregnancy, I had been at home taking care of myself, so I wasn't very informed about what had happened in the company during that time. I didn't expect to return and be met with such accusations. I turned around and angrily asked them, "What do you mean by that?" Michael also looked at them with curiosity, but I sensed a hint of insincerity in his tone. "Why do you say that?" One of the employees stepped forward and said, "Mr. Jiang, you might not be aware, but today a group email was sent out in the company with a bunch of photos, all of them featuring your wife." Michael's eyes widened in shock. "What do you mean? Explain it clearly." The employee replied, "You can see for yourself, I've printed out the photos." The employee quickly handed the printed photos to Michael. Upon seeing the contents of the photos, Michael's face instantly turned very grim. Then, he threw a stack of photos in my face. "Olivia, do you think you can justify this to me?" I felt dizzy from being hit by the photos, and my forehead also hurt a lot. The photos were scattered all over the ground, and the employees gathered around eagerly trying to pick them up. "It's truly disappointing. How could this woman behave like that? Mr. Jiang, we all feel disgusted. Marrying such a woman is truly unfortunate. This matter needs to be resolved internally within the company as soon as possible, otherwise, if it leaks out, the company's reputation will suffer serious damage." I also flipped through a few photos and found that the content was simple and crude, just bed photos of me with other men. However, it was clear that they were all manipulated fake photos. "It's impressive. Michael actually managed to pull off something like this. I almost want to applaud him. He really went to great lengths to get me out of the company." Seeing him looking so aggressive in front of everyone, I couldn't help but laugh. "Michael, you don't need to make such a big deal out of this. You just want to drive me out of the company, right? If you'd told me earlier, I could have cooperated with you." Michael didn't expect me to react this way, leaving him temporarily at a loss for how to proceed. "Come in with me." He pulled me into the office and took out the pre-prepared equity transfer agreement. As long as I signed it, I would have no further ties to the company. "Olivia, this company won't accept a shareholder like you. Sign quickly and leave this place." His roar echoed throughout the entire company, clearly intended to portray himself as the victim. Such shouting was unnecessary. "I have already said that I would support you." I signed the equity transfer agreement and then threw the document at him. "Are you satisfied now? Michael, it's over for good." I turned and left the company, my face expressionless. Behind me, he shouted angrily, "Olivia, if you find yourself in trouble in the future, don't come looking for me." Michael and Sophia's wedding went ahead as planned. During this time, I didn't contact him at all, as if I had completely exited his life. He was immersed in a new happiness, as Sophia shared their sweet moments on social media every day. They camped under the stars, watched fireworks on the Ferris wheel. Michael did many romantic things with her that I had once longed for, while he used to say he was too busy and had no time for me. To marry Sophia, Michael booked the most luxurious banquet hall in the city, spending over $1 million. This reminded me of when we were getting married. He had said that weddings didn't need to be extravagant for appearances and ultimately chose to hold ours at a farmhouse. On the wedding day, my dream white wedding dress was soiled with dirt from the farmhouse. I was also criticized by his relatives, who said I was like a country bumpkin and that marrying Michael was out of my league. Looking back on those times, I realize I was really foolish, and it even caused a rift between my father and me, leading to a Cold War that lasted several years. As I gazed at the lavish wedding venue, I took a moment to compose myself and entered with a few bodyguards sent by my father. My father's convoy was also on the way. Today was bound to be a grand spectacle that would make waves throughout Haishur. Michael had truly put in a lot of effort this time, not only inviting hundreds of guests but also drawing in several media reporters. Sophia claims to be the daughter of the wealthiest person in the city, which makes everyone eager to see how she performs. The wedding ceremony soon begins, and all eyes are focused on the stage, leaving no one to notice me. I casually found a table to sit down at and quietly watched as Michael, dressed in a suit, stood on the stage. He held a large bouquet of roses, waiting for Sophia and her father to enter through the main door. The wedding march began to play, and the spotlight shone on the entrance of the banquet hall. Everyone's eyes were glued to the big door as it slowly opened. Then, Sophia, dressed in a white wedding gown, walked into the hall, holding the arm of a middle-aged man and sporting a radiant smile of happiness. The bride looked stunning. She was as beautiful as a fairy, with a unique grace that exuded an air of nobility. It is said that her father is the richest man in Haishur, and how fortunate it is to be able to attend such a wedding. I could hear the guests around me murmuring in admiration. I took a closer look at the middle-aged man beside Sophia. He seemed somewhat familiar. Oh right, he was Mr. Young, who had tried to swindle my dad for an investment last year but ended up being exposed by my dad and had even received a few slaps and been kicked out. This wedding was becoming increasingly interesting. I remained silent, watching the ceremony with a faint expression, while my curiosity grew stronger. Sophia mentioned that her father is a billionaire, yet the man she is marrying is a fraud. What kind of deception could be hidden behind this? From Michael's joyful expression, it was clear that he was still oblivious. The wedding proceeded smoothly, and everyone witnessed them exchanging rings and sharing a passionate kiss. The cameras of the media kept flashing, capturing these wonderful moments. During the toast by the groom and bride, I saw them approaching the table where I was sitting, and I couldn't help but feel excited in the lively atmosphere. Congratulations to Mr. Jiang and Miss Lin, they truly make a great couple. I hope Mr. Jiang will take good care of Miss Lin in the future. Here's a small red envelope to express my best wishes. When they approached our table, all the guests stood up, smiling as they presented the prepared red envelopes. These individuals were all downstream partners of Michael's company. In their eyes, Michael marrying the daughter of the richest man opened up limitless prospects for the future. They believed that as long as they closely followed Michael, they would surely benefit in the future. With a spectacular wedding, Michael successfully boosted his partner's confidence in his company, which was indeed a smart move. After all, these downstream partners usually have no opportunity to connect with the upper class. Even Sophia's father, despite being a deadbeat, is not something they can easily recognize. At this moment, Michael finally fixed his gaze on me, his expression changing suddenly, his brow furrowing tightly. Michael angrily asked, "Olivia, what are you doing here?" At that moment, Sophia finally noticed me, and her face instantly turned pale. After all, she can't possibly forget my face. Previously, my mother and I had grabbed her hair and slapped her several times, an event that will forever be a shadow in her life. I didn't rush to expose Sophia. Instead, I calmly looked at the furious Michael and said with a slight smile, "On your wedding day, your ex-wife has come to give you a red envelope. You should be happy, right?" Saying that, I took out the red envelope I had prepared in advance, filled not with money, but with things that could instantly crush Michael. Is this really Mr. Jiang's ex-wife? Mr. Jiang is truly impressive, even his ex-wife has come to congratulate him. It's certainly not easy to receive blessings from an ex-wife for a second marriage. The guests were puzzled by this, but they all praised Michael. Noticing this, Michael suppressed his anger and softened his tone, saying, "Olivia, I'm very happy that you came. I toast this drink to you." After finishing his words, he gave the best man a hint to quickly pour the wine. But I stopped him. "Miss Lynn, shouldn't you be the one to pour this wine for me?" I smiled as I looked at the still pale-faced Sophia. Sophia nervously glanced at me and hurriedly took the wine bottle from the best man, respectfully pouring red wine into my glass. Her hands were trembling, showing her unease. I quietly waited for her to finish pouring, then said to her, "Miss Lynn, I've given my husband to you. Shouldn't you thank me first? Let's have a drink." As soon as I finished speaking, Michael immediately stepped in to protect Sophia, coldly stating, "Sophia is pregnant and can't drink." "Is that so? But I really want you to drink it. What should I do?" I said, staring intently into Sophia's eyes. Michael clenched his teeth, clearly about to lose his temper, but Sophia quickly interrupted him. "It's okay, honey, I should drink this glass of wine," she said, and with that, she swiftly raised her glass and downed it in one go. Her eyes revealed a strong plea, as if she was begging me not to bring up the past. At this moment, she might be regretting that she hadn't found out earlier that I was Michael's ex-wife. If she had known sooner, perhaps she wouldn't have dared to marry Michael. "Olivia, are you satisfied now?" Watching Sophia struggle to finish an entire glass of red wine, Michael clenched his teeth. I didn't pay any attention to his anger. Instead, I grabbed the bottle and poured another full glass for Sophia. "She should be fine with one more drink, right?" Michael glared at me, snatched the glass from Sophia's hand, pointed at my nose, and spoke with anger in his voice, "Olivia, that's enough. Don't go too far." The guests around us began to take notice of the scene, casting curious glances and whispering among themselves. "Today is Mr. Zhang's wedding, and it's unbelievable that someone is causing trouble for him. What a shameless act. Mr. Jiang is letting it go for the sake of his reputation, but don't go too far." Employees from Michael's company have also stepped forward, criticizing this woman. "It's one thing to tarnish Mr. Zhang's image, but today is his wedding. How can you be so shameless as to create a scene? Do you believe I could pull out those photos of yours and let everyone see?" Right now, Michael's employees are all relying on him. After all, once he secures funding, everyone will get promotions and raises. As more and more people gathered around to watch, the bodyguards my dad sent immediately stepped in to block them, preventing anyone from getting hurt. I calmly focused on Sophia, unconcerned about the discussions around us. "Sophia, whether or not you choose to drink is entirely up to you. Perhaps I'm in a good mood today and can give you a break. After all, I think you and Michael are quite suitable for each other. With that, I drink." Amidst Michael's surprised gaze, Sophia immediately raised her wine glass again and tilted her head back to drink. As she drank too quickly, the red wine splashed onto her face, soaking her wedding dress. "Ms. Lee, today is my wedding. Can we talk about our matters later, please?" Seeing Sophia so humble, Michael was filled with anger. He pulled her behind him and said sternly, "Olivia, what exactly are you trying to do? Are you threatening Sophia? This is going too far." After saying this, he began to comfort Sophia. "Sophia, tell me, did she threaten you? Don't be afraid. I will protect you and won't let her bully you." Seeing Michael standing in front of Sophia like a strong man at that moment, I couldn't help but feel a surge of emotions. A year ago, I was harassed by an older man at a social event, and instead of helping me, he pressured me to apologize to that man and ultimately blamed me for ruining the collaboration. At that moment, an employee rushed in and handed a thick stack of photos to Michael. "Mr. Jiang, I've brought the photos," he said. "If she dares to cause any more trouble, I'll let everyone see her cheating photos and make her feel utterly ashamed and lose her reputation," Michael said smugly, and then added as a final warning, "Olivia, this is your last chance. Leave now. Otherwise, I won't leave a way out for myself." Seeing the fierce smile on Michael's face, I responded with a slight grin. "If you have what it takes, then come at me." Provoked by my challenge, Michael forcefully threw the photos in his hand, scattering them across the banquet hall like a celestial maiden scattering flowers. "No, don't." At the moment Michael threw the photos, Sophia lost her composure. The guests at the scene eagerly scrambled for the pictures, even more passionately than they had for the plush toys tossed during the wedding. Everyone could see clearly how unreasonable it was for someone like her to cause a scene. "Security, please escort her out. Don't affect everyone's impression." Michael had a smug smile on his face, and his gaze was filled with mockery. However, to his surprise, there was not a trace of panic on my face. Instead, I appeared very composed. "Sophia, I initially intended to let this go, but it seems your husband isn't going to let you off the hook." At this moment, Sophia trembled all over and suddenly knelt before me under the astonished gazes of the crowd. She hurriedly said, "Ms. Lee, I was wrong. I'm not going to get married anymore. Please, just let me go. I'm leaving right now." After saying that, Sophia took off her diamond ring and threw it at his face. "Michael, why didn't you tell me sooner that your ex-wife is her? Otherwise, I would never have married you." After saying this, she tried to escape, but Michael grabbed her by the arm. Michael was stunned, his eyes filled with disbelief. "Sophia, what do you mean by that? What exactly do you have on this woman? Tell me, I can help you resolve this. If you leave now, I will become the biggest joke in the city." Sophia shook off Michael's hand and angrily said, "You're already a joke. Do you even know who she is? She is the daughter of the richest person in Haishur." Sophia's words caused an uproar at the scene. Michael was taken aback, his expression turning panic-stricken as he exclaimed, "Ms. Lee, I was wrong. Please, give me a way out. I'll leave right now. I beg you." Sophia knelt before me once again, clinging tightly to my legs and crying uncontrollably. Now she knows fear? But even if I let her go, would Michael allow her to leave? Sure enough, as soon as I finished speaking, Michael stepped forward and grabbed her wedding dress. "Sophia, what on earth are you talking about? Your dad drives a Rolls-Royce and lives in a mansion. Were you just deceiving me about all that?" Michael turned to find Sophia's father, only to discover that he had already left. Moments later, Mr. Young was caught by a burly man and tossed back into the banquet hall. Then, my dad appeared in front of everyone, saying, "Chairman Lee, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I truly made a mistake." After Mr. Young was thrown into the venue, he crawled on his knees towards my dad, bowing his head furiously. My dad's expression was very grim as he slowly walked towards Michael. Smack! As soon as he stood in front of him, my dad didn't say a word and delivered a loud slap to his face. Following that, a second and a third slap came one after another. My dad finally withdrew his hand after slapping Michael more than a dozen times. "Michael, if you let my daughter down, your nightmare is just beginning," he said. After that, he took my hand and prepared to lead me out of the banquet hall. "Dad, wait a minute, I haven't given him my gift yet." With that, I threw the red envelope I had been holding at Michael. "I have prepared this gift for a long time, and I hope you will like it." Michael trembled as he opened the red envelope, finding it filled with photos of Sophia. Upon seeing the first photo, his eyes widened immediately. In the picture, Sophia lay naked on a man's chest, her expression looking quite relaxed. Although it was a still image, one could almost sense her carefree demeanor. "I mentioned earlier that your newlywed wife can really hold her liquor. After all, she used to be a hostess, didn't you know?" Michael's expression instantly turned frantic. "Sophia!" Michael lunged at Sophia, pushing her down to the ground, causing the banquet table to collapse. He pinned her down and returned all the slaps my dad had received back to Sophia until she was hurt and bled. I didn't want to watch any longer, so I pulled my dad away from the scene. As we were leaving, a group of police officers rushed in and immediately surrounded the venue. The police said to Mr. Jiang, "These photos are suspected of being falsified and have seriously harmed Ms. Lee's reputation. Please come with us to the station for questioning." Soon, everyone who was suspected of defaming me was brought back to the station. As my father said, their nightmare had only just begun. Michael's company was already facing a cash flow crisis, and my father didn't even need to apply any pressure. On the very day he left the station, all of the downstream partners gathered at his company's entrance, urging him to pay for the project. When they learned that he had no money left, they could no longer tolerate it and brutally beat Michael downstairs, with several of them using clubs to break his legs. As for Sophia, my dad didn't intervene directly because he knew someone would take care of it for him. A few days later, shocking news spread through the city again. Sophia, who was recovering at home, was brutally murdered, and the killer was Michael. Surveillance footage showed Michael limping and seemingly out of control, stabbing Sophia in the stomach more than 20 times with a knife. Weakly, Sophia asked, "What exactly are you trying to achieve? Look at me now. I'm like this all because of you. It was clearly you who deceived me." With blood in her mouth, she continued, "Didn't you say the company would be going public soon? That's why I agreed to marry someone like you. It was through the surveillance video that I realized Michael and Sophia were actually deceiving each other." Sophia pretended to have a wealthy father, making Michael believe that marrying her would lead to a life of success and fortune. Another delusional company gradually thrived, leading Sophia to think that marrying him would allow her to enjoy a life of luxury and wealth. It's truly ridiculous. At the end of the video, Michael slit his own artery and collapsed onto Sophia's corpse. This serves as a conclusion. Living without the ability to share wealth and prosperity. The dead, on the other hand, become companions. I wonder if, when they meet in hell, enemies will feel even more hatred for each other.